Why is Seele so strong? First off, she is Quantum, and the only other Quantum unit is a Gacha girl that does inconsistent DPS depending on her luck. And the future lineup does not indicate another Quantum DPS coming anytime soon. What makes Seele unique is her talent, Resurgence. This lets her get an extra attack when she kills an enemy, and this extra turn increases her damage. However, killing an enemy with this bonus attack does not grant a second bonus attack. This lets her ping pong on weaker targets to finish off stragglers. So while she is technically in the hunt path, she can clear in AoE situations like a Year Edition unit just fine. This extra turn does not count as a follow-up attack, but it does not consume a turn. So that means any buff she has from your supports will not count down. For example, Bronya's skill will buff Seele for 2 attacks instead of 1, and Tingyun can buff 6 attacks instead of 3. If you add in Seele's ultimate, which also does not count as a turn, you can sneak in even more attacks under the buff window. Let's see her in action with some neat tricks. You can actually get multiple resurgence stacks in a row if you kill an enemy with her skill and then ult. So one trick is to use her skill to kill an enemy, then use her ultimate before the animation of the skill is done to queue it up. This gives you your first resurgence. Now if you kill another enemy with her ult, then you get both resurgence attacks afterwards in a row. And by attacking in this order, the 2 resurgence attacks will help build a bunch of ultimate for the next time. Here's an autoplay sequence with Seele getting so many turns in a row. And yes, that was a 58k ult with Seele. Oh, you also get an achievement for having Seele attack 5 times in a row, which is actually pretty easy to get. To keep up the pressure, her skill gives a 25% speed buff for 2 turns, which will always be up if you don't waste all your skill points with other party members. For traces, prioritize her skill, then ult, then talent. And her strongest passive is Ascension 4, which gives damage penetration. Decreasing enemy resistance is a rare stat and super strong in Honkai Star Rail, since there's almost no diminishing returns because it's quite hard to stack. Her Ascension 2 makes her less likely to be hit, which stacks with the natural low aggro from being a hunt character, and Ascension 6 lets her act faster after a basic attack. All helpful, but definitely get the quantum penetration right away. For light cones, the best one is her signature, but that's the best weapon for every hunt character so far. Thanks to Seele's speed buffs, she does not need as much speed on relics to get the max stats on this passive. The other 5-star light cone is also good, not as strong as in the night, but gives a solid stats and extra crit. Oh, and speaking of crit, Seele has a lot of passive crit damage from her traces that totals to 24% when max. So focus more on crit rate. Given that, the strongest free-to-play light cone is the 5-star from Herta's shop. It does not have as much stat as the other 5-star weapons, but it does give extra crit rate that she really desires. It also gives an attack buff after defeating an enemy, which matches her playstyle quite well. All the other 4-star light cones does similar damage, so you can pick the one you have available. But I recommend picking up the 5-star weapon from Herta's shop when you can. Also, swordplay might look bad on Seele since she changes targets so often, but Seele's skill does 4 hits, so she can stack this passive really fast even when switching targets. Pretty much use one skill and the damage bonus is almost maxed. For relics, surprise surprise, you want the 4-piece quantum set. But don't worry about this until late game since farming this domain is very annoying. It is paired with the damage reduction set, which is not as good as the defense percent on any tanks. Early on, don't worry too much about the set and just focus on the main stat. For stats, you want crit rate on the body since she has the extra 24% crit damage from her traces, and attack percent on the boots. Seele is already quite fast and only needs some speed substat to max out the passive on her light cone. Having speed on the main stat is just overkill. For ornaments, you want the attack percent or crit rate set. The break effect one can help slow down bosses more if they don't resist it. And the main stat you want eventually is quantum damage on the globe and attack percent or break damage on the rope. Here's a quick summary of what main stats to look for. Personally, I prefer attack percent so she can get more killing blows and activate resurgence more often. For teams, it's actually quite standard. Since Seele does so much damage, you can actually have her as the solo hyper carry DPS with multiple supports to buff her up. Seele's best support is Bronya, not only because they are in so many cutscenes together, but also because Bronya can give Seele an extra 2 to 3 attacks each turn when using Resurgence and Seele's ultimate correctly. Another strong support is Tingyun, since she gives a 3-turn buff, which effectively can be 6 or more attacks for Seele, and Tingyun's ultimate gives a nice chunk of energy and damage. A very strong support for any hyper carry. Hela is also great since her ultimate lowers enemy defense for 2 turns, and Seele can get a bunch of hits in before an enemy actually finishes their 2 turns. The standard teams usually run a tank and a healer, which may lead to only 1 support slot for Seele. But if you want to go hard on damage, then you can ignore the tank and bring a healer with 2 supports to let Seele shred through enemies. Keep in mind that this is quite a squishy team, so the healer will need to be quite beefy to soak up and heal up all the damage the team might take. Anyways, this sums up my quick Seele guide. The most important part is managing her skill points and bonus resurgence attack. Focus more on crit rates since she has naturally high crit damage, and the free-to-play 5-star light cone is surprisingly good on her because of the crit stats. Let me know what you think of Seele in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and as always, have fun out there, Trailblazer.